Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail with another Scrolls Ranked replay. This time we have Slin, who's playing Growth, versus aischarm, who is playing Energy. However, as you'll see, both of these players splash a little bit of different colors into their deck. So this is going to be a pretty good matchup. Both of these players are rated very high. Both are constantly above 2,000 rating. Slin usually around the top 10, at least more recently, but you can see Slin gets a pretty good draw, and you see his Poether in there. He splashes some order in with his deck. But right now, aischarm starts with his energy draw. Slin does have a Kinfolk Brave he can play pretty quickly, but he has a Poether that may or may not be useful right away. He has a Nodi, a Rallying, just a few cards that he can toy with. He gets rid of the Nodi early and plays the Kinfolk Brave right in the middle of the board, something you don't really want to see no matter what you're playing as. Turn 2 if you're from your Growth opponent. But aischarm calmly puts down the Hellspitter Mortar. Note that what he's doing here, Slin is trying to take control of the middle of the board here, and aischarm is essentially saying, you know, you can have the middle of the board, I'm going to try and defend the edges here and funnel you in the middle. So I'd be curious to see what he does up top here, because he's currently trying to just say, you know what, you can have the middle right now. So there we go, he has the Hellspitter Mortar, and suddenly he's forcing Slin to try and attack and break through these three areas. So there's a Brother of the Wolf, and this Kinfolk Brave is just going to be able to wail away without really anything unless aischarm has something in the middle that he can drop. Right now, Hellspitter Mortar, nothing. So there is one Hellspitter up there. This Brave is just going to be able to go to town, and Slin does have a Vetter. He can play a Kinfolk Brave, and it looks like he's going to Fertile Soil and go ahead and get one Quake, which a Quake is a good way to try and deal with these Hellspitter Mortars, because if you let two of them go long enough, eventually they are going to start ransacking your army. But there's a Clock Library for aischarm as well. Not a card you see in every deck, but if you can get it to go all the way down its countdown, and Energy has some good ways to knock down its countdown, then it's pretty valuable for getting cards. But aischarm just staying calm, letting the Hellspitters do their thing, and it looks like he may be able to punch through and get that first middle idol, as he does 3 damage to one Hellspitter. And he does have a Kinfolk Veteran. He does have a Rallying that he can use if needed, if it comes to that. But right now, he's electing to attack with his brothers instead of summoning wolves, because quite frankly... Whoa, there's a Hellspitter taking out one of the brothers of the wolf. So that was what I was trying to say before. These guys can two-shot the Hellspitter Mortars, and as long as he dodges unlucky hits, but he didn't there, so he's forced to play the Kinfolk Veteran, maybe sooner than he'd like. But there's one idol down for aischarm, so right there, the MPV Brave may be doing his job. And there's a Violent Dispersal to try to take out the other wolf brother. So suddenly, Slin's plans of taking down these two things are not going to go very far, but he gets a second Quake. Do you really need 2 Quakes? It looks like he does, because he has just gotten rid of his Rallying, and there we go. Quake taking down both Hellspitter Mortars. Yes, his Kinfolk Veteran's hurt, but look what he can follow it up with. He can follow it up with another Veteran. He can follow it up with another Quake if he likes. He has a Poether that, once again, he may not need. But aischarm's Tool Initiate did survive the blast. And he does have 5 cards to Slin's 3. So he didn't exactly catch aischarm at a terrible, terrible position. And there is what I was saying before, the Iron Whip on the Clock Library to knock down its cooldown. So aischarm actually left that with even more cards than he had before. So quick sacrifice of the Poether, which once again he doesn't need, to get out the Kinfolk Jarl. So he's currently trying to pressure the top of the board. And he's keeping a pretty good spread, just in case with that 6 energy, aischarm tries to start playing some shenanigans. Of course, no one can survive the Violent Dispersal. And there's the Gravelock Elder, and there we go. Let me just pause real quick. There is the Transposition. So if you were wondering why the Gravelock Elder was summoned there, it was to put the Destroyer up there, because that is a great card that Order has that you can throw in energy decks to move structures around. So notice suddenly he used the Tool Initiate to buff this guy, and boom, just like that, one Kinfolk Veteran down just because he could move this card around. So Slin has got to start thinking about what's going on here. He has a Quake in his pocket if he elects to use it. But he's instead going to start playing some more creatures. He's going to haste and try and hurt the Gravelock Elder. He has a Naodi. Yes, he's going to play the Naodi instead of the Vetter of the Wild as well. Because if he's thinking Quake, you don't want to play a card that's just going to get quaked immediately afterwards. But unfortunately, a Quake isn't going to do all the damage in the world. It's not going to take out the Destroyer. And right now, notice the Naodi does give Slin some extra energy, but there's the transposition again. So that destroyer is suddenly going to be... Oh, okay, so he Iron Whips and Machine Priest. Let me just tell you what's going on here. The Iron Whip on the Gravelock Raider means that the Jarl is going to take 3 damage. Because remember, attacks start from front row, then middle row, then back. Then the destroyer, which is now targeting these 4 tiles, is going to do even more damage. So in fact, it looks like aischarm is going to entirely clear Slin's board. So if there was ever a time for a quake, even a desperation quake, this is it. And notice the lucky, well, the very fortunate Ragged Wolf draw. Slin is not only able to kind of bite back and clear the board, but he's actually able to take out the destroyer with just a 1 growth unit. That destroyer did its job though, but we do have a board reset, as the Machine Priest is not really going to be able to heal structures because there's no structures there. So Slin getting a transposition in his deck as well. It's not going to do the most good ever, but it's certainly going to be good if this wolf can survive and he can somehow... Yeah, he should be able... If he can mangy and then play the transposition, he'll be able to knock out a lot of stuff here. But the Iron Ogre, that's tough. Iron Ogre isn't going to... Iron Ogre is a great wall for this Gravelock Elder. So aischarm having an answer for what Slin's trying to do here. And Slin could actually play the mangy, could play the Ragged Wolf, and then switch positions right there. So that's what he does. Ooh, is what he says. Question now is, he does get a Ranger's Bane from that, but he decides to draw for scrolls. And does he Fertile Soil or does he Ragged Wolf? What does he want to do with these cards? So Ragged Wolf, that's going to do some more damage. Not enough to kill everything, but you want that Iron Ogre at 1 damage, or 1 health instead of 7, that's for sure. So suddenly, with the transposition, both of these players just moving around. This is how you want to splash energy, if you can, or splash order in there. New Orders, another fantastic card. It's just a common, but being able to move your creatures as much as possible and put them behind another Iron Ogre wall, it's ridiculous right there. So Slin has just had the good move, and aischarm takes it right back to him. So that Order Splash really getting some interesting moves from both of these players in this game so far. But there's your standard Sister of the Fox to Fertile Soil. Plenty of new cards for them to play with. But if aischarm can do anything to haste these units, that Kinfolk Brave's going to eat it. Notice that he didn't move the Great Wolf up. He'd rather keep this line in the middle. He'd rather defend the area as best as possible. And aischarm now has just a super fun another transposition. And he's going to Fury as well. So, oh man, that Fury, that transposition combo, that Great Wolf is suddenly feeling very, very lonely. Now, Slin has a lot of cards that he can follow up with, but his board once again has been cleared. And what you want to do as energy is just clear, clear, clear as much as you can. Do not let your growth player overwhelm you. But there's the burn on the Great Wolf, so all Slin has right now is a Jarl. And actually, aischarm has enough damage to where he can take out 1 idol if he wants to. And that looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. So 1 idol for each player so far. We're at turn 16, and Slin has got to get some stuff back on the board in a hurry. There's a good Poether. Right off the bat, there is a sack of the Mangy Wolf, and he could Quake here, but Quake's not going to do him wonders. It's going to be a good card to maybe pocket a little bit later. On the other hand, the Kinfolk Veteran is going to be able to take out 1 of those Elders. The Kinfolk Brave is going to start putting some more pressure on those units up top, because he can possibly kill... It is possible for him to kill with the Jarl. Well, not anymore because of Violent Dispersal, which is great card art, by the way. But there's your Hellspitter Mortar as well. So aischarm tucking his big nasties behind structures, and there's not a lot Slin can do other than just try and push, maybe go for some other idols. He can't actually move his Brave up top and try and attack the Clock Library. Or he can try and do damage here, so he's going to do that. Because this Gravelock Elder cannot move and attack and kill that guy, so that will spare Slin at least a turn or 2. So there is the Jarl. And this could be a God Hand turn next turn if aischarm doesn't do much about it. There is a burn on the Brave. But still, even these few creatures, it's good to have. There is a Potion of Resistance on the Iron Ogre and a burn. So aischarm getting some extra card draw, which is really helpful for him. So it looked like a God Hand turn, Maybe not. And he has a Quake, but once again, what's the Quake going to do for him? The Potion of Resistance on the Iron Ogre is not going to... It means that Iron Ogre is just going to be there and he's going to have to deal with it. But Ranger's Bane does do damage every turn, so that's 3 damage each time. And he decides to switch up, kill the Clock Library. He knows that the Jarl's not going to do a ton of damage, but he protects it with the Great Wolf. And he protects it with a Veteran, so right now he is just trying to scramble back into control. So let's see if aischarm can make him pay. Does he have a Thunder Surge? No, he does put out an Ether Pump. He puts out 2 Ether Pumps, which left unchecked can do a lot of damage. And is this Hellspitter going to do... Oh, Hellspitter takes out the Kinfolk Brave. And so the Jarl takes extra hits that he didn't want to take. And now we just have to go with that Hellspitter. If you don't deal with it, it will screw you up. But I don't know if Slin's going to have enough that he can play this turn. So he God Hands. And excuse me. Wow, that was really rude of me. But he does God Hand, and the Jarl's going to be able to punch through all of this. And yes, that wolf may have only done 1 damage with the God Hand, but suddenly that guy's down to 4. And that Potion of Resistance only has a turn or 2 left. So there's another Hellspitter Mortar. And actually, unfortunately for aischarm, he does have a lot of energy, and he does have some order, but he just didn't have any cards that he could play that turn. But these Ether Pumps are going to start doing some damage in a hurry if Slin doesn't deal with them. So the Potion of Resistance is still up. Slin draws another Quake, or he has another Quake. Is this your usual deck? Slin says for ranked. Yes, aischarm says just curious. So here we go. He could play a Veteran Fertile Soil it. He could play a Kinfolk Brave. But something tells me he's got to get something moving this turn soon. Because you don't want to let somebody who's sitting on 6 energy just to have a bunch of cards. Slin says he's not ranked 2 at the moment. I think the last time I checked Slin was ranked 4, but I did step away for a little bit. So you are looking at plenty of high quality play from both players, and there isn't a lot that separates the top dogs. I mean, there's a lot of good play all around. As you see here, the Transposition at just the right time. And the Fury as well, so that is going to just hurt. There is an Ether Pump, and there's another Ether Pump, so how many creatures is Slin going to lose? That's all of them. I tell you, being ranked 2 is not going to save you. And there's a Quake right there. That could save him because he has 2 Quakes, but it's not going to save you from a Transposition, Destroyer, Iron Ogre, Fury combo. So awesome move by aischarm. Slin doing the Quake that he has to do, and he can't Fertile Soil and play the Vetter this turn. So he's just going to hope. aischarm saying he hopes he doesn't have one of those. But Slin can Fertile Soil and then Quake. Unless, of course, aischarm has something that'll let his units play. So there we go. The Transposition once again. So that Vetter's going to eat it. And it looks like aischarm is just going to have to Quake and carry on. So nothing much he can do. He has some cards. He can play a Brother of the Wolf to follow up. But there's the necessary Quake as Slin is back in the game, and sad face. I mean, that's a game. Quake's one of those cards that you could look at and say it's going to prolong the inevitable. But right there, Slin having some cards he can follow up with, at least staying in the game, because if you can stay in the game long enough, eventually you may be able to take it. But those 2 Quakes in a row could be the saving grace here. So Slin with a Sister into a Fertile Soil. And he gets 2 Ragged Wolves, which are good cards. He could play a lot of cheapies this turn. I say cheapies like that's a thing. So he plays the Nodi instead. And the Vetter up top. So he's spreading out his forces. He doesn't want these little guys to get Thunder Surged. And he does have a Rallying if it does come to it. So there's a Violent Dispersal on the Brother and a Tool Initiate. And Slin on turn 24, he has some Fertile Soils. He can get a pretty significant card advantage here if he elects to sacrifice all of his units. And it looks like that may be what he elects to do here if he's going to Fertile Soil the Sister, which he does. So look at all those cards Slin has, just suddenly so much to play with. And he could Pother to try and get another Scroll as well, which he does. And there's your Kinfolk Brave, there's your Ragged Wolf. It's not going to kill everything this turn, but it is going to do some damage. So Slin going back for idle damage. aischarm, gotta hope for some luck here with the Hellspitter Mortar, but you can see Slin possibly holding back in relation to that, or just wanting to be able to follow up with some own cards of his choosing. But there's a Gravelock Elder who's going to buff everybody else around him, and there's a Destroyer as well. So bye-bye, Wolfie. Oh no, actually. And that's one of the disadvantages of the replay mod. I can't click on this unit and see where the area of effect is for this. Well, of course there's no area effect for the Hellspitter Mortar, it just selects a random area. Whew, long game, good game. Apparently it's making me forget what cards do. But he could God Hand to try and take out this Destroyer. But he decides instead to Poether and move this guy down just a little bit. Puts the Jarl down. Looks like he's going to use this turn to try and fill his board with creatures as much as he can. As there is our happy little wolf skillfully dodging the Destroyer. If aischarm has another card, he can switch these positions and try and do some damage. But being only 2 damage, notice Slin is trying to hang on to his creatures as much as he can. Because with 2 God Hands and a Quake, he has plenty that he can do. But that Thunder Surge, good play by aischarm, just sniffing out the wanting to try and survive. Because God Hand even makes your tiniest creatures very, very large. So Slin having 1 idle down, but aischarm definitely has board control. Slin could Quake again. It's always an option. But he does elect to play our good friend the Kinfolk Veteran, and he does play a Mangy Wolf as well. So he's going to get some board clearing this time around, at least by taking down a few units. And once again, he's going for some idle damage as well. Now Slin's in a pretty interesting position here. Because, let's hear, there's the focus. So that's... Let's hear, that focus... Is that going to do a lot of good here because it gains 3 attack? Does he have anything that can speed this unit? No, so he just... Oh, there we go. Ah, screw that up. He was going to focus another unit, and he focused the wrong Destroyer. So... There we go. 1 mistake by aischarm, focusing the wrong unit, maybe transpositioning the wrong thing. And what's going to happen here? There's 1 idle down, there's 1 idle undefended, and he puts down a Mangy. And it looks like he has 8 growth. Slin's going to GG this turn. So that is an escape. One error from aischarm. And Slin is able to capitalize. And there we go. Very good game between both of these players. So just there is a good example of where splashing in your deck can really add a lot to it. aischarm was able to do some great work with his Destroyers by being able to move around. Slin able to do some good utility work by adding some Poethers to his deck, but really it came down to his abilities to get Quakes and stay in the game and win by attrition. So this is Way to Fail with another Scrolls replay. If you got your own replay, feel free to send it to w2freplays@gmail.com. Otherwise, I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time.